annual thing now, inshallah, that we're doing to help us get ready for Ramadan once a month. In case you didn't know, there is babysitting outside, and we also have babysitting sale, which you can get after. Inshallah, Imam, Rafiq, Shaykh Hasan will go and speak about 15 minutes apiece to share some of their reflections with us on Ramadan. We'll wrap up that portion at around 7:45, and then we will take questions from the crowd. You'll see that there are paper and pencil, paper and pen cards at the front, and we'll also take questions. We also have live tweeting questions if people are tweeting questions in. So I would invite our teachers to speak inshallah and
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم وبعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. First and foremost, we begin by praising and glorifying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and asking His peace and blessings upon His servant and His final messenger Muhammad, upon his family and his companions and those who follow them in faith and practice until the last day. MashaAllah, tabarakallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with hidayah, that He has given us, mashallah, the greatest ni'mah that He can bestow upon a human being, and that is the blessing and the favor of guidance, that we recognize and attempt to establish this kalima, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And we are approaching, mashallah, the blessed month of Ramadan. It's mentioned from the Sahaba radiallahu anhum ajma'in that how much they used to reverence the month of Ramadan and look forward to the month of Ramadan. And one narration is mentioned that one of the Sahaba, that he would make dua after Ramadan. From the end of the previous Ramadan, he would make dua every day that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless him and to live until the next Ramadan. And subhanAllah, he would keep making that dua continuously throughout the year, anticipating the coming Ramadan. So mashallah, that anticipation of Ramadan was something that they had, radiallahu anhum ajma'in. So when we come together here now, a few days before the beginning of Ramadan, to talk about the month and the virtue of the month, and to remind one another that this is something that they used to do, illa masha'Allah, and throughout the year, anticipating the blessed month of Ramadan. So alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us to be here and to make the effort to prepare ourselves to meet this month. So of course we strive to do so in accordance with because He is, of course, for us the best example for everything that we do. And this is an opportunity for us in this month of Ramadan, inshallah, to gain a great reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That there are opportunities that they are there in the month of Ramadan that we do not have in other months or in the other months. So in this month, mashallah, tabarakallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned, the Prophet mentioned in authentic narration, that futat abwab al-rahma wa abwab al-jannah wa ghuliqat abwab al-nar wa sutrat al-shayateen, aw kama qala alayhi salatu wasalam. That the doors of the paradise are opened and the doors of the hellfire are closed and the shayateen are chained. So that means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His mercy is giving us every opportunity to maximize the benefit that we get from the month of Ramadan. So the rest remains upon us. That subhanallah, and what more can we hope for? The doors of the paradise are opened and the doors of the hellfire are closed, the shayateen are chained. Now what's left for us is to fulfill our covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when we bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and that Muhammad is his servant and his messenger, alayhi wassalatu wassalam, then this is an oath or covenant that we make with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the month of Ramadan is an opportunity for us, mashallah, to revisit that oath that we make every day, to, mashallah, to establish and build upon that statement and to strive for that quality of taqwa. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. That, O ye who believe, fasting has been written upon you, just as it was written upon those who came before you, so that you may gain the quality of taqwa. So alhamdulillah, this is what we are striving for in the month of Ramadan. So there are some things that we need to remember, some things that we need to take from the example and the practice of the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam, and some things that are particular to, mashallah, our particular situation here and in fasting here in the United States and in our society and within our community. I want to begin by talking about just a little bit about as-suhoor. And this, of course, is the meal that we take, inshallah ta'ala, in the early part of the morning, in Qubayl al-Fajr, and before the time of Fajr. And the Prophet ﷺ, and he mentioned in authentic narration, where he ordered us, or he encouraged strongly to sahru, that we should partake of this meal. فَإِنَّ فِي صُهُورِكُمْ بَرَكَةً. For verily in that meal, the suhoor, there is blessing. So, mashallah, this is a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is also one of the differences between the fast of the Ummah Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam and the fast of the people who came before. That this meal of suhoor, and that has been established through the methodology and the teaching and the practice of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, and it is something unique to the Ummah Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. So we should make sure that we grasp that blessing. So in this time, of course, it's going to be a challenge for us because the days are very long, mashallah. We are now fasting in the early part of the summer. And I think actually when was it? Yesterday is the longest day of the year. So the days now, they're going to start to get a little bit shorter on a daily basis, but not by a great deal. So we have Maghrib coming in at what, 8:56 and almost 9 o'clock. So by the time we pray Salatul Isha, inshallah ta'ala, and the Taraweeh, and everybody, you return to your home, and it's going to be 12 o'clock and 12:30 maybe before you go to bed. And then to have to get back up and at 4 o'clock for suhoor, then we might be, we might be tempted to say, it's okay, just I'll leave it and I'll make it. But if we push ourselves, inshallah ta'ala, to get up, inshallah ta'ala, to make 2 rakah, to make some salah, to have just something light, and then get the barakah, and get, mashallah, the blessing of that meal. And when one of the Sahaba, radiallahu anhu, he was asked about the time of the suhoor, and that when did they take the suhoor, and he was asked what is the time between the time they finished the eating and the time of the Fajr. And he replied in English, meaning that it was about the time that it takes to recite 50 ayah from the Quran. So this is a time that is about, what, 15 minutes, we'll say. So it's not that we say that, okay, before I go to bed, it's 12:30, it's late, let me take suhoor now before I go to bed. This is not considered suhoor. And the suhoor needs to be before the Fajr. After we sleep, we wake up, and then we take the meal, inshallah, to prepare ourselves for the fasting. Also, from the ulama, they mention, that we should make the intention for fasting. So there are two basic aqwal from the ulama regarding the intention. One of them is that we make the intention for the whole month once the month of Ramadan began. So in other words, if we are anticipating the fasting on this coming Saturday, the 28th of July, which inshallah would be inshallah the first day of Ramadan, and Allah knows best, then we would make the intention and after Maghrib and of the previous evening. So after Maghrib on Friday, once the sun sets, then if tomorrow is going to be the first day of Ramadan, then of course that's the first night of Ramadan. That's why inshallah we'll have Salatul Taraweeh that night, excuse me, Friday night. Inshallah ta'ala bi'idhnillah. So we make the intention from that time to fast the whole month. We make the intention that we fast the month of Ramadan, yani, according to the book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Messenger ﷺ, for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The other aqwal is that we make intention every day. That every day in the month of Ramadan, after Maghrib, that we make intention that we are going to fast the following day. So, and mashallah, and it's mentioned from the ulama that both of them correct, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best, that we try to make the intention every day, inshallah ta'ala. But if we forgot one day to make the intention, and with that adamancy, and then mashallah, the fact that we made it for the beginning of the month, and it will cover for the fact that we may forget. So therefore, and they kind of overlap one another, inshallah ta'ala. But we have to remember that in the ma'ama biniyat, that verily actions are according to intention. So therefore, inshallah ta'ala, we have to have that firm intention in our heart that what we are doing and why we are fasting, and we are fasting to fulfill this order from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also, inshallah ta'ala, there are several of the virtues of the fasting. I think I'm going to leave those for Shaykh Hasan, inshallah ta'ala, bi'idhnillah. And I'm just going to mention a few things that we need to be, a few practical things that we need to, all of us, reminding myself first and then all of us, bi'idhnillah. First of all, the month of Ramadan, mashallah, is the month of fasting, the month of Quran. And it is not the month of ta'am. And it's not the month of eating. It's not the month of food. And a lot of times that our focus gets shifted from the fasting to the eating. And what are we going to have for the iftar? And mashallah, how many dishes and how many families we will visit and so forth and so on. But we want to keep our emphasis, inshallah ta'ala, on that purpose of gaining the taqwa. And the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is making the food and the drink prohibited for us during the month of Ramadan in the daylight hours, then this is a very clear message that alhamdulillah the water is here, and if I drink from the water now, then it's no problem. And water is good, it's pure, tuhur, mashallah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with mashallah ma. But 1 week from today, at this same time, this same water would be haram. So what changed? The water didn't change, and I didn't change. The only thing that changed is the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's the beauty of fasting, that we recognize and understand that it is the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala which is first and foremost. And that is what brings into our minds and our hearts the reality of the taqwa, the awareness of who is our Lord, and the reality of the authority of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala over us. That even that thing which is good and lawful and pure, that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala proclaims that it is forbidden, then it is forbidden. It may be halal before the time of the Fajr, but haram after the Fajr enters. It may be haram right before the sun set, but then mashallah it is halal after the sun has set. So this mashallah reminds us and brings us to that reality that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is truly the one who has the sulta, is truly the one who the power and the authority and the izzah, the authority is in his hand, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also, when we spend these days, inshallah ta'ala, in fasting, then no doubt we are going to experience hunger and thirst. And when we experience hunger and thirst, we should think about those whom they experience hunger and thirst on a regular basis. And that those whom they fast not only in the month of Ramadan, but they fast because they have no food. They fast because they don't have the ways and means to provide for themselves and their families, that they don't have the food to eat. So when we, mashallah, experience the hunger and the thirst, that we think about the fact that the condition that we are in at that time, that there are some people whom they are in that condition and without without the month of Ramadan being upon them. So we develop, inshallah, a sense of empathy for our brothers and our sisters whom they may be in difficult and straitened circumstances. And one of the things that we are encouraged to do in the month of Ramadan is to give, and in charity, and to feed those who are fasting, and to just spend in charity just on a regular and a general basis. And so every opportunity that we have in the month of Ramadan to do something good and to spend for the pleasure of Allah, to give, then we should take avail of that opportunity. And the giving is not always just with money, which mashallah it's good to spend from our money, but the giving can be with a kind word. The giving can be with how we treat our spouse or our parents or our children, and the giving our brother or our sister in Islam, helping someone who is in a difficulty, just a smile in the face of your brother or your sister. And mashallah, this can be an act of sadaqah, an act of charity. So in the month of Ramadan, we look for ways, inshallah ta'ala, to benefit and maximize every opportunity that we have, and to spend for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Spend from our person and from our wealth and from whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with. So as we go into the month, one of the things that we have to be aware of excuse me, is that we do not want to waste the ni'mah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is one of the things that I have witnessed over the years, that when it comes time for the breaking of the fast, especially in these days, when the days are very long and we are undoubtedly, inshallah, going to be hungry and thirsty, and we see the food in front of us, and sometimes we take more food than we are going to eat. So we have to be mindful of that. We don't want to waste the bounty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That we should only eat, take for the food what we are going to eat. And we be mindful that we are going to be, inshallah ta'ala, striving to establish the ibadah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's soon after we have the iftar. We have Salatul Maghrib, we have Salatul Isha, Salatul Tarawih. And we want to, mashallah, be attentive in our salah, and stand for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a state where we can gain the maximum benefit. So we don't want to overfill our stomachs, and we don't want to waste the ni'mah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we are fixing our plates, when we are fixing the plates for our children, let's keep that in mind, inshallah ta'ala, that we don't want to waste the food. That we want to, inshallah ta'ala, be mindful that this is a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that everything will be asked about on Yawm al-Qiyamah. That we don't want to, inshallah ta'ala, have to, and when we are striving in the month of Ramadan to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and prepare ourselves for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's forgiveness, His pleasure, His mercy, and His paradise, then we don't want to make an argument against us in the fact that we wasted too much of the ni'mah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also, this is a time to encourage one another, that oftentimes when we come for salah in the masjid, Salat al-Tarawih, as we are encouraged to do, to pray in jama'ah, and in the masjid, mashallah, behind the imam, that we have a lot of people, not a lot, but we have some people that they spend their time talking and, just the oneness, and that they are having conversations and socializing in the area here, and it's disturbing the people who are praying. So we want to encourage everybody, excuse me, to join in the salah, and to, as much as we can, that when the takbir is called, that we are there, inshallah ta'ala, from the first takbir. Of course, if we have something, then we all know that we have different things that may cause us to have to leave early, or that we come late for whatever reason. But just to be standing in the vestibule and talking and laughing while, mashallah, the ibadah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is being established, then we are the ones that are losing. And the one who is doing that is the one that is losing, because this time in Ramadan is very, very valuable. We don't know whether we will have the opportunity to spend this time again. The ibadah in this month, mashallah, is elevated, and the ajr is increased and multiplied by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as much as Allah wills, more so than in the other months. So even though the Taraweeh is a sunnah, then mashallah, if we establish it and we spend that time in the Jama'ah in Salah, then we won't know the true value of that until we meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if we are distracted with socializing and this and that, something that is not a necessity, and we lost that time, then subhanAllah, we will be regretful about that when we come to see the nature of what we lost. So inshallah, we have to be aware of that, inshallah, and make the effort. And then just to remind those whom we are close to. Maybe somebody is telling us, let me tell you about this, or let me tell you about that. And you tell them, yeah, akhi, come on, let's join the salah. Inshallah, you can tell me later, or we can talk about it later. Right now, don't waste, mashallah, this beautiful moment, this time that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made available for us. Also, we should encourage our children to join us in the salah. And one of the things that, inshallah, we want to try to mitigate as much as we can is that our young boys are out in the parking lot, running and playing, and as young boys will do. But if we, inshallah ta'ala, take them by the hand, encourage them gently, come, bring them with us and stand them beside us in the salah, so they can also get the ajr. So I'm talking about, of course, those whom they reach the age of bulugh, that 11, 12, 13, 14 years old. And mashallah, for the younger children, we have the babysitting. But we should strive to inculcate this love for the masjid, the love for the salah, in our youngsters, in our children, boys and girls. So inshallah ta'ala, that they also get the benefit. We don't want to think that we are getting the benefit and our children are not getting the benefit. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Ba'da a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu qu anfusakum wa ahlikum nara. Al-ayah, O you who believe, save yourselves and your families from the fire. So mashallah, we are standing in the salah, getting the ajr from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the children are running and playing, and then of course they are not going to get that benefit. So inshallah ta'ala, we have to gently, mashallah, remind them and persuade them and bring them, and then we make a lot of dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put the love of the salah and the masjid and the deen and in their hearts, bi'idnillah. So mashallah, tabarakallah, these are some of the things that we need to think about as we approach this month. And of course, when we fast here in the United States, it's different from fasting in the Muslim country. Mashallah, I lived for several years in Medina, in Saudi Arabia, mashallah, tabarakallah. And I had fasted for maybe 10 years here in the United States before I had the opportunity to live in Medina. And the fasting here and the fasting in Medina is so different. Subhanallah, it's just like night and day. So when we fast here, we have to just make a little bit more effort and be more aware, because we are going to be busy with the things that we do every day, whether it's work, whether it's school, whether it's the business, our profession, clientele, co-workers, who are not fasting, and that they may be involved in licentious talk, or they may be inviting us for this or that, or they may have some issue that needs to be taken care of or something. But we just keep in mind and remember that we are fasting. And of course, that very well-known hadith of the Prophet ﷺ in the English meaning, where he mentioned that if someone tries to start an argument with you, and if they try to get you involved in an argument, then you simply say to them, Allahumma inni sa'im, Allahumma inni sa'im, and that verily, oh Allah, verily I am fasting, or just inni sa'im, I am fasting. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, say this twice. And this is a reminder for ourselves, and also a reminder for that person, that right now that I am in a state that is unlike my state outside of Ramadan. That right now I'm recognizing and understanding the precious nature of this time and every moment that I spend in this month. So I don't want to waste time in an argument with you. And I don't want to waste time listening to useless talk or jokes or music and things of this nature. That I want to, inshallah ta'ala, be in tune with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Be in tune with, mashallah, the act of ibadah that I have, mashallah, made the intention for. And that is what is so unique about the fasting. Because, mashallah, it is, it's all day long. And then, of course, once we break the fast, then we are engaged in, inshallah ta'ala, the nawafil, in the salah and the dua and so forth. But during those daylight hours, which now is going to be about, what, 16 hours, I guess, that, subhanallah, that we have to be aware of that and in tune with that. And that follows us into whatever we are doing in the day. And whether, as I mentioned, whatever our pursuits may be, that we have to continue in those pursuits. So inshallah ta'ala, we just keep that frame of heart and that frame of mind and that awareness. And inshallah ta'ala, and this is also an opportunity for da'wah, because mashallah, you will find people asking you, why are you not eating? And why are you not drinking? Or perhaps they invite you to come and have lunch with me or something of that nature. Perhaps maybe you've been working someplace for several years and they know that you fast. Then they ask, oh, this is Ramadan, or you're fasting again. And there are opportunities that we can use those opportunities just to very politely and diplomatically invite to the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That we're not, the purpose of our fasting is not that we're going to convert anybody, but mashallah, just as we recognize the beauty, mashallah, of this deen, then we want others to have the opportunity to understand it and to know about it as well. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may give us those opportunities through the fact that we are fasting. So these are just a few of the things, mashallah, that we can remember in the month. And there's so many things we can mention, but I think I already took too much of Shaykh Hasan's time. So inshallah ta'ala, I'm going to suffice with that, inshallah ta'ala, and give the floor to our Shaykh, Jazakallah khair. إن شاء الله تعالى ونسأل الله التوفيق والعافية سبحان الله وبحمده سبحانك وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك جزاكم الله خيرا وبارك الله فيكم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الملك الحق المبين وأصلي وأسلم على رحمة المهداة ونعمة المسداة سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه ومن سار على دربه واقتفى أثره ومن والاه إلى يوم الدين والموافاة اللهم آمين اللهم آمين اللهم آمين. Our praise and thanks are due to God, most merciful, most compassionate, and peace be upon His messenger and His family, and His companions and His followers. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to include us with them. Ameen. 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 I truly don't want to, bother the sweetness of Imam Rafiq in your spiritual palate. So I'll be brief, inshallah. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and mashallah, I can't say how much I'm so thrilled that we always do this every single year. I think we should do it regardless of who comes and who doesn't come. It just reminds us of how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to heighten the expectations of the Sahaba from Ramadan. So every Ramadan, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would say, "Hey, ja'akum mutahhir, ja'akumul mutahhir." The purifier had come to you. Right? So we know what the Prophet ﷺ is doing. He's telling them, he's heightening their expectations. There's something really important and great that is going to begin at the first night of Ramadan, right? And more than that, the Prophet ﷺ loudly, he would loudly go and in front of the Sahaba. The majority of the dua of the Prophet ﷺ, the Sahaba heard him making dua by himself or something like that. in the congregation, the Prophet ﷺ would say in an expression of plural, right? He would use the plural, Allahumma ballighna Ramadan. Oh Allah, make us reach Ramadan. So, because the Prophet ﷺ wants to make them prepare for Ramadan, he wants to make them really be aware of every single moment of Ramadan, because every single moment in Ramadan is a worship. It is a worship. Every single moment is sacred. Every single moment there is tajalli min tajalliyat haqq azza wa jalla. There is a manifestation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that is there. And as much as we take advantage from that, as much as we get closer, as much as Ramadan becomes transformative. Because the purpose of Ramadan is to transform. That's what the Prophet ﷺ said. جَاءَكُمُ الْمُطَهِّرُ, to transform. Right? So by the end of Ramadan, there is something wrong. There is something that didn't transform. That means, multiple things. But the main thing is that we get into Ramadan without an agenda. We get into Ramadan, we're just like, okay, so we're going, Ramadan is coming, oh my goodness, 16 hours a day. You know what I mean? And you start being abated and really down from the beginning. You're not excited about what Ramadan is bringing to you. Right? So, what do you want Ramadan to do to you? What is it that you're asking from Ramadan? This guest that is coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with multiple gifts. So if we don't have a clear purpose from Ramadan, like I want to, I have issues I have temper issues. I'm going to deal with that. I'm going to make Ramadan my ally to help me with that. I don't know. Whatever it is, everyone sees in the mirror and knows himself, right? You know yourself, you know your shortcomings, you know the things that you're struggling with, and we're all struggling in one way or another, right? In one level or another. That's the nature of life. So what do you want to work on? What do you want to work on, right? So have that at the beginning of Ramadan. That's really crucial and very important. You can't come to Ramadan like clueless, just like, okay, I'm going to fast. All right, good. It's not that you're not going to get much of Ramadan, but you're not going to get anything of Ramadan. Definitely, everyone who fasts and live this beautiful time, this sacred time, inshallah, will get something out of it. The generosity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is greater than our slackness and our sluggish attitude towards Ramadan. So it's transformation, and every type of transformation necessitates some striving. It necessitates that you put on some effort, that you put on some serious effort, right? Serious effort. So striving is the nature of Ramadan. So it's called Ramadan. So what's the meaning of Ramadan? Ramadan itself, the word Ramadan itself means that it's a time of, there are multiple theories about how the Arab named the month, like Sha'ban and Ramadan and Rajab and so. There are multiple theories. So one of the things that they say about Ramadan, why the early Arabs named this month specifically Ramadan, it's because at the time when they were naming it, it was so hot. So hot. So they call Ar-Ramda. Ar-Ramda is the place, Ar-Ramda in Arabic is the place, is the desert or the place that has sand, and it's become so hot at midday. Remember, they're talking, so this is the Arabs in Arabia, the desert and all of that. It's very hot. So when they named the month, it was at a time it was so hot, really hot. يقولون في حديث صلاة الضحى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم سيدة عائشة سئلت متى كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يصلي الضحى وسيدنا أنس فقال كان يصليها عندما ترمض الفصام. ترمض معنى ترمض. Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم used to pray صلاة الضحى at a time where ترمض is the same root as Ramadan, which means that the heat make the camels, the small camels, struggle with their feet on the sand. So hot, becomes so hot that the camels, the small camels, the newborn, they're having difficulty walking on the sand. So Ramadan, the word itself means striving, it means heat, it means struggle, it means all of that. It's all of that combined, right? So struggle is part of it. So we try to make fun every single thing in our deen. And that's why we don't get the benefit of it. The fact is, you have to feel that hardship. You have to feel it. Just like gold, you put it in an oven to extract it from all the nastiness or all the dirt or whatever, all the other chemicals. You put it in so hot an oven so you can extract all of that out of it. Just like that. Make yourself malleable to the work of Ramadan. Don't resist what Ramadan is bringing you. Don't resist what Ramadan is doing to you spiritually. Be lenient to it. Be lenient towards Ramadan, which means that fast with zeal, fast with happiness, fast with. Don't fast the fasting of those who are like, there is a difference between Alhamdulillah of somebody who is thankful, Alhamdulillah, is somebody who's like, he has no way, he has no other exit except that saying Alhamdulillah. That Alhamdulillah, but your heart is like, oh man, I'm so in such a difficulty. No, say Alhamdulillah and you mean it. And you're really thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fast and you mean it, and you're really thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's when transformation happens. That's when we lead ourselves to Ramadan, when we benefit from each and every single moment, when we diversify our worship, right? So diversify from taking of the spiritual food. So don't just do one type of ibadah. Fasting is great, right? Fasting is great, but fast is there are levels of fasting. Fill your fasting with ibadah. Fill yourself with obedience, with type of obedience. So recite the Quran. If you never finish the Quran, this is your opportunity. Do your best to finish as much as you can, right? If you have issues, reading the Quran, then have a companionship of somebody who can teach you how to read the Quran in Arabic. Do your best. Even if you cannot read it in Arabic, then at least go over the Quran in English. Go over the Quran. Go read the transliteration. There are books. Find ways of connecting with the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because the Prophet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he described Ramadan, of course fasting is great. Of course fasting is the trademark of Ramadan. But when Allah ta'ala described Ramadan, he said, شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. So the main type of worship after fasting is reading Quran and connecting with the Quran and studying the Quran and so on. If you can't do it on your own, then have somebody. Do it with a friend of yours. What are friends if you don't get together and do this? Right? What are friends for? Get with somebody and sit down and do this. Sit down once a week or twice or every day. Why not? Every day, 1 hour. Come to somebody's home after work and sit down and read and discuss it and so. And take your children and get them involved in this. Mudarasat Quran is really, 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 really crucial and important, like studying and discussing it, and so it's really crucial and so very important. So again, Ramadan is a lot of people fast to improve their health. There's a booming on the fasting industry right now, quote unquote, right? Seriously, there's a lot of people who are into fasting right now, not Muslims, are into fasting right now because of its health benefits. So people who, I don't know if you've heard about those people who some of them who are curing diabetes fasting. They're reversing some type of diabetes just because of fasting diet. And that's documented. Go and see it. And also people who have high blood pressure, just fasting, nothing else, just fasting. People fast 40 days eating nothing other than juice or just water or like 50 calories. These are people who wants to treat eczema, for example, who have eczema in their bodies, and so they're suffering from it, and the smell and all of that. And fasting, somebody told them that fasting is helpful. They start doing it and they're doing well and all of that. And a lot of people are doing it to detoxicate, right? Detoxicate. It's very important. So to get the body to rejuvenate itself, to really put the reset button, right? It wouldn't help if you fast at the end of the day and then you just go and throw yourself into eating. It's not going to work. So those are the people. These people are all looking to do something with fasting to the body, and that's good. But for the believer, that's not the niyyah you should approach the fasting. Fasting detoxicates the soul. Really, it purifies the heart. It purifies the heart. It's really. فَالصَّوْمُ جُنَّةٌ. And Rasulullah said, الصَّوْمُ جُنَّةٌ. That fasting is a shield. It is a shield that protects your inner sight, your fitrah. So when we fast, we have to keep that in our mind. We have to keep that in our mind. Prayers at time, all of them as much as you can. Take, there's no reason for you to renew to keep on updating your Facebook every single day in Ramadan, right? The world is going to stay the way it is. Nothing is going to change. You're going to be the same person. If you don't tweet, you're good, right? You're fine. The world is going to stay as it is, right? So it's like quit that. Quit that. That's my advice. My advice is that minimize your interaction with anything that will distract you, get you out of from the time of ibadah to the time of forgetfulness. Anything that will drag you from the time of from the sacred time to a time of forgetfulness, just forget it. You may go check your email for 1 hour and find yourself wasting 3 hours. Sleep. Right? So, it's very difficult right now it's very difficult and challenging. I shouldn't say difficult, I should say challenging with Isha very late and then Fajr very early and all of that. And that tiredness for the sake of Allah Ta'ala is great. When you get tired for the sake of Allah Ta'ala, that's good too. That's good too. That's when your spirituality is improving. That's when your spirituality is taking over. Don't just, don't sleep for 12 hours and then you think that you're fasting or not, right? And, I said it last year and I said it this year. Our fasting is not complete until we help the people we are around to fast properly. So, my wife is watching, so she's going to hold me accountable to this. But if we only emphasize in food, then my wife is taking care of it, how is she going to fast properly? How is she going to find time taking care of the children and all of that to sit down and read the Quran? How egoist out of me to just focus on myself and then let her, no. This is a joint enterprise. Let's help as much as we can so we can make an environment in which everybody is benefiting from Ramadan. Ramadan is not just for me, it's for everybody. So make it as such that, and if you're still, you're not married and you still live with your parents, make it easy for your parents to fast too. Make it easy for them to fast. Help your mom do things, help your dad do things. Make it easy for them. Suggest to them that you should have a time in which you all sit in and read the Quran, or all sitting and doing some khair, doing dhikr, or studying the seerah, or whatever it is that you're doing. But do it together, 1 hour a day, as much as we can. Come to Taraweeh. Taraweeh had a great impact on the spirituality of the communal, not just for on the individual, on the whole community. We come together and we stand up in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we show our gratitude to Allah Ta'ala and our need and our necessity as a community in front of Him. And Allah Ta'ala forgive us with the righteous among us. I may not be worthy of the forgiveness. I may not be worthy for all my, this and this and that. But I'm standing on the line with somebody who's worthy, right? Somebody who is worthy, a sister who had a humbled heart in front of Allah Ta'ala will vouch for the whole community standing up in here. Vouch for everybody. Will vouch for all of us. Right? That's people are sitting and studying. Let alone people are standing up in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So and make if you can't come because you have children and you can't come to the masjid, and if you bring them it's going to disturb everybody. People should pay attention to this. I repeat it again and I sound like I'm very cruel. I'm not. Seriously. People, if you have little children, the obligation of the time is that you take care of them. When you bring your children to the masjid, they're crying here and crying there. And so, what are you doing to the whole experience, for the whole community? Where you are not benefiting because your mind is with your child, and the whole community is having a better taste because they're not concentrating and so. The obligation of the time is you take care of your children, get them to bed at a time when they should be get to bed, feed them at a time. If you pray 2 rak'ahs after Isha for the sake of Allah Ta'ala while knowing that you cannot come, that's great, right? But don't mix up your priorities. At a certain time, your priorities should be the things that are obligatory upon you at that moment, right? Invite people to do Taraweeh with you. Let your husband come and do Taraweeh together. Whatever, you can have. There are a lot of alternatives. You know what I mean? So we have to be aware that our choices also affect the community. Invite people for fasting, for breaking your fast, as Imam Rafiq had said. But don't go crazy about it, because at the end of the day, we want to help people on, finding their spirituality and helping them in that regard, not to just not to, waste and so, do your best to be generous, but at the same time, don't go over the top. Don't go over the top. Make sure that you're helping people, not getting them into trouble. Be careful not to waste your fasting. Be careful with your fasting as much as you're careful with your purse, or the most precious thing that you have, gold or whatever. Be precious with your time in Ramadan. Be precious. Don't waste it, right? And sometimes waste can come from people who you think are brothers and sisters who are going to come and talk to you, but no, if it has to wait, it has to wait. I'm going to be late until that, and I have my word of the Quran. I'm not going to let anything go. Of course, at a time when there is a need in the community that you have to serve, then you have to go and serve. Like, remember, the Prophet ﷺ came out of i'tikaf for one reason. He came out of the i'tikaf for one reason, and the reason was, or two reasons. The first reason was that somebody came to him and was in need of a service. And the Prophet ﷺ found that the service of this man cannot be fulfilled except that he goes out of his i'tikaf. I'tikaf is the last 10 days he would stay in the masjid and have 10 days of complete worship in the masjid. He would have like small curtain in the masjid, and he would stay in that curtain. Why you put a curtain inside the masjid? You put the curtain inside the masjid. You want to be bothered by limiting the visibility, limiting every single thing. He's focused. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's in a khulwa. And in the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ, there will be a lot of curtains put, a lot of curtains in the masjid, a lot of curtains. The Sahaba would come at the 10th day of Ramadan, and there are a lot of curtains. Each one of them is inside his cubicle, right, of curtains. So that's how the Prophet ﷺ, and he went out of Ramadan, he went out of i'tikaf. That you shouldn't go out, that is nullified if you go out for any reason. He went out only for that reason, to serve somebody. So this is a time for service too. Right? It's time of service. As you said, diversify your type, take from worship, give, help people, come share a meal with the brothers in here and sisters, and all of that. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, at the end of the day, every day make a moment in which you pause at the end of the day. It's like, how did this day go? Like, what did I do this day? Like, every day, don't let the day go before you stand up and say, before you go to bed, pray to rakat and say, oh Allah, it's like, what did I do this day? And then count what you have done, and look at what you have done. If something that is good, and then don't repeat it again if it was bad, and so on and so forth. Start your Ramadan easy. Don't start hard, right? You start really hard with the ibadah. You start really like going to doing all of this, worship and all of that, and you can't sustain it. After 5 days, 6 days, first week, the second week, you can't sustain that, and then you dip, and you dip badly, that you can't pick up yourself, and then the last 10 days come, and you're completely, you're drained, and you have no, will, or power of the will. You have no resolution. No, start easy and ease yourself into it, and then the second week you add more, and then the third week you add more, and then the third week you give it up. You give it all. The third week you give it all. Think about it. Let's think about Ramadan as our last opportunity. Our last opportunity. Like, this is it. This is it. This is it. I might die right after that. So let's show Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala some effort from ourselves. Let's show our commitment. Make dua for yourself, for the ummah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. All the time. Make your sujood long sujood, long sujood. Unload to Allah Ta'ala. Cry to Him. Cry to Him. And we ask Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala to make us among those who fast the best fast. And Allah Ta'ala give us the fasting of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Alhamdulillah. It wasn't that brief at the end. So you should not give the mic to. Very seriously. Don't leave the mic with us. At least with me.
Inshallah, we'll take some questions now. brothers and all that. Sisters, I
Sure.
have paper and pen, if you guys want. If anybody has any questions.
Inshallah, Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wasalam. For those who wish to write their question or doing so, if anyone just wants to raise their hand, they can just raise their hand, and we will acknowledge them, inshallah. Oh, she's asked about it.
Bismillah. Is that for women? Is that what it is? So if there is usually the qawaid, the ladies who are who are old and so they would make i'tikaf in the masjid, but the majority of the time the i'tikaf is for men, unless there is an arrangement for the ladies that is secure, and then the mahram is in the masjid and all of that, then it's great. Then it's okay. But I think that the ladies can do their i'tikaf in the house, and make their dhikr and make their Quran and devote themselves to that, and that's great. The facilities in our mosque and in a lot of mosques in America is difficult, but if that is possible with the husband, and there are no other obligations, like there is no obligation for the person to, like there isn't a parent that needs to be taken care of, there isn't a child that needs to be taken care of, and there is a mahram in the place, then it's okay. But other than that, it's preferable that we do it in the house. That our ladies do it in the house. Well,
Brother Yahya. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wasalam, rasulullah, wa ba'd. Inshallah, the question is regarding the fasting of a pregnant woman, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best, according to what I have learned from the ulama, that if the woman is healthy and she can fast without doing any damage to herself or the unborn child, then she may fast. If there's any risk of health complications for her or for the child, then she should not fast. And then, she should take the hukum of the same one who is prevented from fasting because of illness. Inshallah ta'ala. So, it's been my experience. I have known pregnant women who have fasted, mashallah. And I have known those whom, they could not fast. They tried and they were unable. They became weak, and then, there's some complications. So it has to do also with the physical stamina of the individual. As people are different, but they should not put themselves or the unborn child in any risk as a result of the fasting. And Allah knows best. Oh, let's see.
جزاك الله خير ان شاء الله. ان شاء الله ان شاء الله نتصل الله ان شاء الله.
Shaykh, I'm going to let you have this. كيف الفدية في المرأة؟
I just want to say, so Ummahat al-Mu'mineen, some of them had i'tikaf in the masjid. So the mother of the believers, they had i'tikaf in the masjid. Sayyidah Aisha and Salama, and so they had i'tikaf in the masjid. So, but can you imagine the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ, the environment and all of that. So if we can replicate those parameters, right, then it's okay. If not, then it's better to do it in the masjid. So Abu Faisal asked me to talk a little about the merits of fasting, and it comes to the mind of all of us the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's a hadith that is a hadith Qudsi, which means that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is speaking on behalf of God in here, and he's saying, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, كل عمل ابن آدم له إلا الصوم فإنه لي وأنا أجزي به. That every single deed of a human being is for him or for her, which means that whatever you do, you get your reward, and the reward is prescribed. You pray, you do one hasanah, Allah Ta'ala give you that hasanah multiplied by 10 and sometimes by 700. But the reward of fasting, nobody knows what it is, because Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala had taken it upon Himself that He is the one who is going to reward the one who is fasting. And there is not a hadith that the fasting that is acceptable, that is accepted, there is no reward for it except Jannah. And the Prophet ﷺ told us that at the Day of Judgment there will be a gate in Jannah prescribed just for those who are fasters, who is to fast in this dunya. It's called the Rayyan. He even gave us the name of that gate, of one of the gates of Jannah. Only those who fast will come through it. So, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among those who fast all the time. Allahumma. We have to be Ramadan, we can fast. What is it supposed to do? So, for the sister who is pregnant and cannot fast, then she has to feed one person, or the meal of one, like the equivalence of one meal per day. Like every day, what's the meal, the fidya? They say that the fidya right now is like, the meal of one person would be, if you go, I don't know if you want to give you a fidya from McDonald's, but that's the cheapest. You go to, so it's a full meal, you say $12. Some people are limiting it to $12. Some people say $7. So I would always go with $12 every single day if you cannot fast. So that's the fidya. وعلى الذين يطيقونه فدية طعام مساكين في رواية ورش. وعلى الذين يطيقونه فدية طعام مسكين في رواية حفص. So on those who cannot bear it, who cannot carry the obligation of fasting, then they have to give a fidya, then they have to give a penance, quote unquote penance, which is to feed one person a day. Right? So you give them the equivalence with the food, or you give them the money, the equivalence of one meal. Right? So that's no, that's they have to make up. They have to make up, and she has to make up, of course. There's a huge difference, isn't it? So some scholars say she have to give the fidya and make it up. And some people say you have to give only the fidya. You can't. Allah Ta'ala did not mention that you have to give it back. So there are a lot of differences in here. If the person is interested, then we can give an individual. It's very difficult to give a very general, fatwa like that. If you have an issue like that, please, talk to us, and then we can go over the stuff, and then we can go over all the details of the fatwa, of the details of the issue, and so. But it's not, so it's not just like a general thing like that, because we don't want to get into the details of the madahib or each one of. So the Maliki said this and this and that, and the Hanafi said this and that. And so we lay out the what's in there, and then the person goes with what they think it's good for them, and it fits the situation, and without letting the nafs get involved in it. It will help in that regard, inshallah.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Just a brief note regarding you're asking about the person who is traveling. So yes, the person who is traveling, I think the hukum regarding the pregnant woman is different. So therefore, if a person, for instance, is traveling for 1, 2, 3 days, then they will resume their fasting once they are done with their travel. Then they would make those days up, and after the month of Ramadan is passed, how many days that they were traveling. No, they do not have to pay for one person to fast. Just as very general, as the Shaykh mentioned that if there's a particular case to give a fatwa about that particular case, you need to know the details of their case. But from a general standpoint, that if someone, for instance, is chronically ill, they cannot fast. They have diabetes, for instance. They would not be able to fast in Ramadan and outside of Ramadan. Then that person should do the fidya. They should pay for one person for each day that they break their fast, because they're not going to be able to fast outside of Ramadan. They have a chronic condition. But the person who is traveling, of course, that's not the case. That they are breaking their fast just because of the rukhsah of travel, and then once that is no longer the case, then they will continue their fast, and they have to make those days up after Ramadan is finished, inshallah, before the next Ramadan. There's a question here. I have to choose between prayer of tahajjud and fajr at the masjid. So the question is, which is better? Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wasalam. If the choice is, if the person is unable to pray both of them in Jama'at in the masjid, then Allah knows best. I would suggest that would encourage them to pray the Fajr in Jama'at in the masjid, because that, of course, is the Fard Salah. And alhamdulillah, this is what we should make the endeavor, first of all, to establish the Fard in the masjid according to the methodology of the Prophet ﷺ. And the tahajjud is sunnah. Yes, we are encouraged to perform it in the masjid in Jama'at, but if we cannot do so, we can perform it individually at home. And that also brings in, this is a segue into the other question, where it is, if the husband is at the masjid for salah, for prayer, can the wife pray Taraweeh with the kids in Jama'at at home or individually? So the answer, and Allah knows best, is yes, she can pray the Taraweeh at home, or maybe she can work something out. The husband, when he comes home, they can pray together. But if she has to take care of the children and she is not coming to the masjid because of her obligation in the home with the children, then certainly she can perform the tahajjud at home. She can do it individually, or if she has children that would join her, then they may do it, inshallah, in Jama'at. No. Wallahu a'lam. Then there's another one here. Bismillah. If for any reason you cannot fast the whole month, do you have to redo the whole month? So that's in line with the question that was previous. If you are prevented from fasting because of travel or illness that is temporary during the month of Ramadan, then you are given the rukhsah or the permissibility from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to break the fast on those days, and then you make those days up after the month is finished. So you keep track of how many days you had to break your fast. So I'm not sure, the reason here is not mentioned. It says that for any reason you can't fast the whole month. So there are certain reasons that are valid. So we want to make sure that we have a valid reason. Now we can't say that we just not fasting because the days are too long, or I got too thirsty, or but we have to have a valid reason for breaking the fast. And if we have the valid reason, and then we may make those days up once the month is finished. We don't have to redo the whole month. Of course, if someone broke their fast in the month of Ramadan without a valid reason, then they have to fast for 60 days. They have to fast for 2 months consecutively if they break the fast in the month of Ramadan without a valid reason for the breaking of the fast. So we don't want to try to take advantage of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it where if there is sickness, if there is a condition, if there's travel, if there's something that is a valid reason for breaking the fast, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided, mashallah, the remedy for that. At the same time, that fasting is one of the pillars of our deen. And as the Shaykh mentioned, mashallah, it requires from us some struggle and some hardship, and this is a way of purifying us, inshallah ta'ala, and raising our level of iman. So we should embrace that, inshallah ta'ala, and ask for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help in completing the fasting in the best way. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Yes, sister. Amen.
What would you give some advice to the new young brothers and sisters facing some overwhelming experience fasting, and how to not take the sickness reason lightly, but even time. Because sometimes we just say, I'm not going to be able to fast because I take medicine but without trying. Just give some advice, please.
Right, Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wasalam, Rasulullah. I don't know if everyone heard the question, but it was a request to just give some advice to perhaps new brothers and sisters that perhaps this may be their first Ramadan. They entered into Islam recently, that some advice to them regarding the fasting. And I think that first and foremost, mashallah, that we should, all of us, be excited about the month of Ramadan. That it is not something that we dread. It's something that we look forward to. We anticipate it, mashallah. It is an opportunity that is unlike any other opportunity. So this is a time for us to gain a lot of benefit, mashallah, and to establish, mashallah, our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the best way. And so for those who they may be new to the fasting, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you the strength that you need in order to fulfill what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written upon us. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not put on anyone any burden greater than they can bear. So fasting is an obligation for the Muslims, mashallah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us, mashallah, the strength that we need in order to fulfill this obligation in the best way. So we should not have, foregone conclusion that I'm not going to be able to do it, or it's too difficult, or anything like this. I've actually heard from many brothers, some whom they had different conditions, or they were on different medication, and subhanallah, they made the intention and to fast, and they did so, and they found that subhanallah, their health even improved. As Shaykh mentioned, we don't want to make the intention that we're doing it for health purposes. But when we do it for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can make it easy for us. So, alhamdulillah, they should just, for the new Muslims, they should be close to the masjid, mashallah, spend time with the brothers and sisters, mashallah, try to come to the masjid as much as they can on a daily basis. As Shaykh Hasan mentioned, inshallah, be close to the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, read the Quran, get the encouragement and the iman, and it comes from reading the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and make a lot of dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help them and make it easy for them, inshallah ta'ala, and they will find that inshallah they will be able to fast and enjoy the fasting, yani bi'idhnillah. Yeah.
We have to remember sometimes that Islam was not revealed all at once. Took time for the Sahaba to grasp the Shari'ah, to grasp the obligations. And you've got to understand, this is very crucial, very, very crucial. The Siyam, fasting, was not obligated in year 1, not in year 2, not in year 3, not in year 4, not in year 10, not in year 13, not in the year 14, not in the year 15. No. Siyam was prescribed in the third year of Hijrah, after the Prophet ﷺ migrated, which means that the Sahaba were prepared for it. So when somebody comes to Islam in their first year, you want them to grasp every single obligation of Islam. What are you actually doing to them? You're burning them. That's what you're saying. No, you have to do everything. Encourage them, invite them, set an environment for them. I cannot speak of the experience of conversion because I've never been converted, right? But it is an overwhelming experience, especially for those who have no support from their families and from the surrounding, and they have to work and they have to do a lot of things. So unless we provide that support for them, and we provide education and provide all of that, and they lapse, if these people lapse, they could not fast. Because it's an overwhelming thing in a society that value food and every single thing, every single thing, food. And people, ate a lot, right? If they lapse, do not rebuke them. You know what I mean? This is how the Prophet ﷺ taught us. Like I give you a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, narrated by Imam Ahmad, right? The Prophet ﷺ, which is one of the greatest of the Sahaba, one of the 10th, right? One of the 10th who are given the glad tidings of Jannah, right? And one of the earliest, some people say, is the 6th to become Muslim. He was the 6th person, so he saw it all. He saw the whole day. It was the whole day from the beginning, right? In Medina one day, arguing with somebody in one of the streets, arguing with him, and he said, "Wallati wal Uzza." It's like, I swear, I take an oath by Allat and Al-Uzza. Allat is one of the old goddesses of Arabia. And Al-Uzza is the same thing. One of the goddesses of Arabia. He said, I'm taking an oath with Allat, I'm taking an oath with Al-Uzza, right? And look, the man has been Muslim for so long. And then somebody behind him telling him, don't swear with Allat or Al-Uzza. Do not do that. And then he turned and the Prophet ﷺ was there. Look at it. Look, you can just go and Google it. Google the hadith in Musnad Imam Ahmad, right? And he turned to him and he said, don't do that. You know, say astaghfirullah, read Qul huwa Allahu ahad, and don't say that. He said, oh Apostle of Allah, inna al-ahda qareeb. Oh Apostle of Allah, we're still close to Jahiliyyah. We're still close to the time of ignorance. It's still in us. So the time of purification of people and get them ready for the Shariah takes time. Same with the prayers. When was the prayer obligated? When was it obligated? Right? In the Isra al-Mi'raj, the 10th year, of course they were praying, but the obligation happened on the 10th year. Right? And so on. Look, the majority of the Shariah, the majority of the legal obligation happened in Medina, when the community is ready for it, when there is a nucleus of believers, when the Tarbiyah has been going on for so long. So don't overload the new Muslims with obligations. Because I'm not saying don't tell them, no, they have to know the obligation of fasting. Help them fast. But if they lapse, don't look at them in a very bad way. Don't rebuke them. Help them out. The first year it's going to be difficult, and they may lose 10 or 15 or whatever few days, and then next year, inshallah, we'll help them become better. Right? There are people who become Muslim 2 weeks ago. Fasting is overwhelming, right? So don't make them lose their faith because they are not fasting the whole month. Don't make them lose the whole faith. I'd rather have them, not fast a few days than have them go back, completely revert. Which one is worse? Which one is worse? Right? I always tell you. This man who came to our Shaykh once. I told you this before. And he's a new Muslim. He just came into Islam, right? And he was sitting with our Shaykh. And the Mashayikh, our teachers, have great adab. So he said, okay, so what do you guys say to this new Muslim? Like, you've been Muslim for so long, what do you say to him, right? What do you say to him? So, if you have enough adab, what do you say? So, I don't know, Sidi, you tell him. What if you are here, why should I tell him? If the teacher is here, why should somebody? So we had a friend of ours who was talkative, so he talks a lot. And he's going to give an advice to the new Muslim in front of the Shaykh, in front of the great Shaykh, right? So what did he tell him? You have to circumcise. Like what? La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. It's like, la hawla wa la quwwata. So we laughed. We laughed it up. So again, we have to focus. What is the most important for those people? Don't overwhelm them. If they lapse, they lapse. Move on. Help them out, right? Don't make them feel bad about it. Make them feel that it's obligation and they have to be trained for it. We were all trained for it. They did not have that privilege. So be merciful. Be merciful. That's what I'm saying. Stop playing. I'm opening the gates of problem, right? So, but again, take the spirit of my message. Don't just focus on that.
Sister Rafiq.
Just on that note, I would like to say that I think there's some practical things as a convert and as a mom that can help a person who's fasting for the first time. One of the things we did with our children when they started to fast the first time was to encourage them to rest in the afternoon. As they approach that time, I can't do this, I'm so tired, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, but rest, lay down, maybe read a book or take a nap, or any of these things can really help a lot, especially these very, very long days. Another thing we used to do when our kids played, because they played sports, so their mouth would become dry, like it has like wads of cotton in it, and it's very hard. So I would always tell them that you can't drink, but you can rinse and spit. So I would actually stand on the sidelines with the water and say rinse and spit, because it relieves that discomfort. And for a new Muslim who's trying to fast on these 16-hour days, it is very difficult, you know. And another thing is hydrating. I don't think we talked a lot about having support in that, but consuming water is huge. It's incredibly important for all of us in these long, hot days. We will be sweating and losing our water. So when we drink, we should, in my opinion, we should be drinking water primarily. It should be our drink of choice to help us stay fit. And I think there's a lot of tips that we can encourage. And if someone's having a very hard time making it all the way to the end of the day with our children, also we encourage them to set a goal time. Sometimes when you say, just try to fast till 5 o'clock, you know, it's a lot more imaginable than fasting till 9. And then when you beat to 5, sometimes you can say, okay, it's a little bit longer, just try to make 1 more hour. So sometimes it's a mind over matter to struggle for this goal, and when you achieve it as a convert and you accomplish this for the first time, it's a great feeling, and that's very encouraging. So I think it's really wise to encourage that. And a final thing I was going to inquire, we've spoken a lot about the health issues that we face, but I do have a question, like for people that we know who are perhaps elderly and at great risk if they try to fast, even knowing they have health issues that could be devastating, and trying to convince a person who says, no, I'm going to fast because, you know, Allah will care for me, take care of me. And these are people who maybe are on medication, but they're very determined. And we know that, you know, I don't know if there's any way to try to convince a person that they're really honestly doing more harm than good. Is there any recommendations for this? I mean, it's just, it might make them understand that Allah wants them to be well, you know, and truly they're going to endanger themselves. If there's a recommendation for a person like that.
Right, Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam rasulullah. Inshallah ta'ala, everyone could hear the sister, because she made some suggestions, I think, that are good suggestions, mashallah. And I think that Shaykh Hasan's point is a valid point. I would just encourage the new Muslims, as having had the experience of accepting Islam in mature age and then having my first Ramadan, just do not underestimate yourself and what you are able to achieve, with faith and depending upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can make it easy, inshallah ta'ala. At the same time, there's a balance there. Yes, we don't want to, in any shape, form, or fashion, make a person who has recently accepted Islam and perhaps having difficulty with fasting, make them feel as if they have failed in their obligation to Allah, or make them want to be away from the masjid and the deen and the community. That would, of course, be a much greater wrong and injustice. So inshallah, there's a balance there that we have to strive for, inshallah ta'ala. We encourage them and support them, and inshallah ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give them the strength to complete Ramadan in the best fashion. If not this Ramadan, then inshallah ta'ala, the one coming, bi'idhnillah. And the ones who, for the elderly people, or anyone with a condition that is adamant about fasting, even in light of the risk of medical complications or harm to themselves, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inna Allah yurikum al-yusra la yurikum al-usra. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not want us to put ourselves in hardship and difficulty or to harm ourselves. And so, all things being equal, yes, of course, kutiba alaykum as-siyam, fasting is an obligation upon the Muslims. But if there is a particular condition for an individual that is going to be more harm for them, or there's a serious risk of medical complications, then they should not fast. So I think that if they are seeing a doctor, if the doctor advises them that it's better that you do not fast, then they should heed the advice of the doctor and recognize that, and they will not be in a state of disobedience if they are following the advice of the doctor, and of course they can then pay the fidya that the Shaykh mentioned, Jazakallah khair. So just try to convince them that that this is something that it's okay for them to utilize this rukhsa, or this license that Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala has provided. That it doesn't mean that they are any less in their faith. And if they are still adamant about the fasting, then nasallallahu tawfiq wal afiyah. May Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala make it easy for them.
But it tells them that Allah Ta'ala had put the responsibility of taking care of their body upon themselves, upon them. So if they don't take care, it's not your body. It is not your body. Allah Ta'ala has entrusted you with that body. Has entrusted you, right? So it's not your full, your full ownership, right? So you do to your body what Allah Ta'ala ordered you to do to your body, and you abstain from that which is Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala told you to abstain from it. So you tell them forcefully that they are throwing themselves into destruction, their body to the destruction. Allah clearly told you, وَلَا تُلْقُوا بِأَنفُسِكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ. Do not throw yourself into destruction. Clearly, the doctors are telling you this and this and that, and so what are you trying to tell? At that moment of sickness, the ibadah, the worship is to take care of your body. That's the moment, the worship of that moment is to take care of your ibadah, take care of your body. God does not need your fasting. He does not need it. In Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said it in hadith. Right? So hadith Qudsi. So don't the person should not play a hero in here when it comes to health issues that are chronic illnesses and things that are serious. Don't play with that. If the doctors, 2 or 3 doctors told you this is serious, don't do it. Don't do it. Go and eat and worship Allah Ta'ala and eating. While you're eating, say Bismillah. What you're eating at that moment, nourishing your body and taking your medicine, that's a ibadah too. No less a ibadah than fasting. Seriously, no less a ibadah than fasting. That's very important.
Alaikum salam.
Is it not advisable that during this blessed time that a person will kind of purposely arrange either studies or like business matters or like any other important thing to you, that to kind of schedule that during the month of Ramadan because of the body Ramadan. See, that is
to evade fasting, you mean? To evade fasting, you mean that people are arranging business or studying or something? To evade? What I'm saying is that these people are organizing these businesses and so and studies to evade fasting, so they won't fast?
No. Just to say, I've got this big test, let me, arrange it during Ramadan. Like I've got this contract, let me work on it during Ramadan. Just because of the
Right.
So, Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wasalam. I'll just make a couple of comments and then inshallah Shaykh Hasan can mention something. So if I'm understanding your question correctly, you're saying that is it ill-advisable that a person would arrange these type of things to make them occur during the month of Ramadan, hoping that they can get then some benefit, that they will be successful in these things because they're getting the blessing of Ramadan. But actually, I would say the opposite. That inshallah that whichever ways we can benefit in the month, let's benefit inshallah ta'ala. So, for instance, if someone said that I want to marry, I'm going to wait and marry in the month of Ramadan. Allahu alam, man. If the niyah is for the pleasure of Allah, then inshallah Ramadan yaktub khair. Inshallah Allah make it a source of benefit and khair for them. Wow. If I'm going to take the MCAT, the medical exam, and there's one in the month of May and there's another one in the month of July, I'm going to postpone mine till July in the month of Ramadan. Inshallah khair. Rabbana inshallah ta'ala bless them in that and give them the benefit in that. So I don't see where there would be any contradiction or anything against the fasting or the spirit of fasting, that they would strive to establish something that has to do with that dunya, in the month of Ramadan. We have to remember that the Battle of Badr, mashallah, took place in the month of Ramadan. The Battle of Uhud, it took place in the month of Ramadan. So that the Muslims were not, just sleeping all day in the month of Ramadan, but they were going about their business, they were going about their pursuits that they had to do on a regular basis. But that this month carries with it also the obligation of fasting and purification and striving to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in the things that we have to do on a regular basis, on a day-to-day basis, that we incorporate those within the month of Ramadan, mashallah. And inshallah ta'ala, we ask Allah to give us the good from it and to protect us from the evil from it. So I don't think they would be doing a bad thing, and Allah knows best.
I just remember that in the Muslim countries, production dips in Ramadan, but consummation goes to the roof in Ramadan. So people are consuming a lot, but production is completely, which is sad. So if we take that every single thing, you make the whole Ramadan is ibadah, is a time of ibadah. Anything that you do with the niyyah of ibadah, feeding your children, going to work, going to every single thing that you do with the intention to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a great worship. Whatever it is. So one should not, of course, in this country there is an obligation for us to, because the environment of our work sometimes is not Islamically conducive, and so we encourage people to take some time in Ramadan for the sake of Allah ta'ala, so you can devote it to, take care of their spiritual well-being and all of that. We encourage people to do that. If you have to take 10 days, off from Ramadan to devote it so you can have more qiyam, so you can have more reading of the Quran, so you can have more devotion to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then great, do it. Because of the environment that we're living in, it's not conducive for. You go out of the masjid and out of the Muslim community, there's nothing that reminds you of Ramadan. Right? So if you limit yourself with connection, at least at this time, so you can give and you can devote it to yourself, then great, do it. But if you can't, then whatever you do, you go to work, you cook, whatever it is, you clean, that is very important. You help your mom, you help your brothers, you maintain the peace and the beauty of the house, then great. All of that is rewarding. All of that has spiritual benefits.
So yes.
Such as
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Well, as I mentioned, just reiterate just briefly about the suhoor and the time of suhoor, inshallah ta'ala, and that it be, the Prophet ﷺ, of course, known to have partake with dates and milk, something light. But we can, of course, whatever we have from suhoor that's good and halal, mashallah, it's good. But from the sunnah, of course, the tamar is always mentioned in the hadith, especially for iftar, for the breaking of the fast. And the Prophet ﷺ is quoted to have said, that that we should delay our suhoor until close to the time of the fajr, and we should not hesitate or not delay in breaking the fast. That once the sun has set, then we should immediately, inshallah ta'ala, break our fast at the setting of the sun. And mashallah, with dates or with milk or with water. And these are mentioned in the authentic Sunnah of the Messenger, alayhi salatu wasalam. Also, as I mentioned before, again, giving in the month of Ramadan, spending for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from our wealth. This is from the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he has mentioned, I think, on the third of Anas, and kan Rasulullah ajwad an-nas, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the most generous of the people. And he used to be even more so in the month of Ramadan, that he used to be even more generous and giving and in the month of Ramadan. So this is something from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ that we should also strive to be generous, to give in the month of Ramadan, inshallah ta'ala, and to share, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed and He blessed us with. Of course, the Salat Taraweeh is a sunnah that, and the Prophet ﷺ, he used to pray in his home, the tahajjud, and then he came out in the month of Ramadan and he prayed in the masjid. And then the second night he came out in the month of Ramadan and he prayed, and some people prayed with him. And the third night he came out and he prayed, and even more people, they prayed along with him. And then the fourth night there was a large group of people waiting to pray with the Prophet ﷺ, and he didn't come out. And he stayed and he prayed in his home. And then when they asked the Prophet ﷺ about it later, he said that, and in the English meaning, that he was afraid that it would become fard. He was afraid that it would become an obligation upon the people, and he didn't want to make a hardship for the people. But he established that sunnah of praying in the masjid in the month of Ramadan. And of course, that was then entrenched, or I should say firmly established, as in the community during the time of Umar radiallahu anhu. And when he saw the people praying in the masjid, well, some of them by themselves, some of them with one person as imam and 2 or 3 followers, or as another group of imam and 4 or 5 followers, that Umar radiallahu anhu, that he decided to bring them all together to pray behind one imam. So mashallah, from there we have the establishment of Salat al-Taraweeh. So we should come as much as we can and perform Salat al-Taraweeh in the masjid, in Jama'ah. Again, if we cannot do so in as many nights as we can, we try to come. The other nights, if for whatever reason we cannot come, then we can perform it also in our homes, as individually, or we can perform it in Jama'ah with the family or with friends, or whoever is visiting. So it's something that we should establish from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and during the month of Ramadan, and bi'idhnillah. Inshallah, Shaykh Hasan.
What you said. Like the Prophet the greatness about this deen is that it left a lot of things for the cultural vessels to take care of. So you find, for example, you go to Pakistan and there is ways and traditions surrounding Ramadan. You go to Bangladesh and there is some others, and you go to Indonesia and there is some others, and you go to Morocco and there's Egypt and so and so. But everybody fasts, everybody fasts, but they do it in different ways. And so the Prophet ﷺ told us that there is barakah in the dates, there is barakah in milk. If you cannot find milk, then drink water. These are hadith. But other than that, the beauty of Islam is that it didn't enforce all of that on people. It did not enforce things that are difficult to change or different. So let every society make its own culture and make its own celebration of Ramadan the way it is. And that's what makes Islam universal, right? We don't want to impose one way of doing things because it's difficult, because that does not have a human being function. But the main thing that we have to pay attention to is the thing that the Prophet ﷺ wants us to be aware of in Ramadan. So once the Prophet ﷺ said, Hadith Sahih, من لم يدع قول الزور والعمل به فليس لله حاجة في صيامه. He or she who doesn't leave out the talk of zur, of slandering, or talking, or obscenity, or all of that, and doing it, right? That which is corrupt. Qawl az-zur, talks that are or talking that is corrupt, and doing it, or doing corruption, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has no need for his siyam, Allah has no need for his fasting. So this person could just go back and drink and eat, and it's because, and he gave us, subhanAllah, there was an instance in the time of the Prophet ﷺ in which in the reality of doing that, the reality of saying that, like you know, sometimes Allah, the Prophet ﷺ told us that the deeds that we do in this dunya will take spiritual forms at the day of judgment. So the one who does zina in this world will have such manifested in the day of judgment in certain ways. The one who lies, the one who leaves his prayers, the one who does that, it will be all of their deeds are going to take spiritual form, right? Which is ugly, which is bad, which is and so on. So the Prophet, Allah Ta'ala wanted the Prophet and the Sahaba to see something in this dunya. So one day the Prophet ﷺ was called in Ramadan, at the day of Ramadan, it was hot. And he came and he saw these two sisters who are really, really suffering. They're sick, they're suffering. And he went to them and he told them to throw up. And they start throwing up. And both of them are throwing up blood and pieces of flesh. It's like raw pieces of flesh. Throwing up. This is disgusting, this is bad. The Sahaba are disgusted. They've seen all kinds of gore in wars, that was really bad. Really, really bad. So the Sahaba were took back by what they've seen. And then the Prophet ﷺ told them that this is the meat that they have been eating all day. It's not the meat, they were backbiting the whole day. They were backbiting, right? They were slandering the whole day, taking somebody's, and this is just the embodiment of the ayah. Allah Ta'ala, أَيُحِبُّ أَحَدُكُمْ أَن يَأْكُلَ لَحْمَ أَخِيهِ مَيِّتًا فَكَرِهْتُمُوهُ. Do you want to really eat the flesh of your brother or your sister while you're backbiting them or like you're slandering them? So one has to be very careful from that. Don't utilize your tongue in anything that is not beneficial. It's like, my tongue is not going to be utilized in anything that is not beneficial. That's it. I'm just going to take it upon myself this Ramadan. We ask Allah Ta'ala to help us. And we ask Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala to enable us. Because, if we feel sluggish, if we feel lazy and all of that, it's our nafs taking hold of us. If we feel like really active and really, invigorated and all of that, that's how we should approach Ramadan. Allah Ta'ala, give us that spirit, and give us that spirit of welcoming Ramadan, being happy with Ramadan, being thrilled with every single moment we pass in Ramadan.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الحمد لله الحمد لله. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. اللهم اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. اللهم اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. اللهم اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم وأموات يا ذا الجلال والإكرام يا غفور رحيم يا سميع العليم إنك على كل شيء قدير. Ya Allah, surely you are the one and only Lord of all the worlds, whom all praise is due forever, Ya Allah. Surely whatever you bestow, no one can hold back, and whatever you hold back, no one can bestow, Ya Allah. Be with us and help us and protect us and guide us in all our endeavors, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, make us of those, Ya Allah, who are blessed, Ya Allah, to meet this blessed month of Ramadan when it comes, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, put the faith in our hearts, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, put the desire in our hearts to serve you and to please thee, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, give us the opportunity to get the full measure of your mercy in this month, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, give us the itqun min an-nar, the deliverance from the hellfire, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, give us the forgiveness of our previous sin, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, accept from us, Ya Allah, our fasting as we intend to fast in this month of Ramadan that is coming, Ya Allah. Accept from us our praying, Ya Allah, as we intend, Ya Allah, to stand in salah during the night in this blessed month, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, help us and protect us, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, our brothers and sisters, Ya Allah, in different parts of the world, Ya Allah, that are in difficult circumstances, Ya Allah, you are aware more than we are, Ya Allah. You are completely and intimately aware in every aspect, Ya Allah, of those situations, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, those who have established the faith in you, Ya Allah, and who strive to establish, Ya Allah, your deen for your pleasure, Ya Allah. Give them the sabr, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, give them the help, Ya Allah, that they need, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, protect them from those whom they would visit upon them oppression, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, protect them and help them, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, join their hearts together as one heart, Ya Allah, and establish them firm, Ya Allah, in faith and firm in practice, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, and give them the victory, Ya Allah, over the enemies, Ya Allah, of this deen, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, surely whatever you bestow, no one can hold back, and whatever you hold back, no one can bestow. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين آمين. بارك الله فيكم وجزاكم الله خيرا.